Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome to Nino's Corner.tv. I got a very special guest, Victor Avila, the guy that knows all things of what's going on the border. We're going to be talking about Kilmer Abrego Garcia, folks. And I got to say, a lot of times I bring up the question, who runs AI? Who's running AI? It depends whose hands it's in, right? Isn't that what all my guests say? Well, it depends who's running the AI is what determines what's good, what's bad. Well, I put in Chat GPT to give me some facts on Kilmer Abrego Garcia. And what they tell me is a Maryland resident was wrongfully deported to El Salvador in March 2025 due to an administrative error by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. The deportation occurred despite a 2019 immigration judge's order granting him protection from removal to El Salvador, where he faced a credible threat of gang violence. Yet, have you seen this guy's knuckles? So, folks, that's Chat GPT right there. And it goes on and on and on, key facts. And I'm going to go over this with Victor Avila. I know this is a last second live. I wasn't planning on going live today, but I wanted to get Victor because he's got a Newsmax hit at 12:50 Central Time. So I want to bring him on. Victor, man. Man, great to see you again, bro. Man, this is like getting so insane. It's just so ridiculous.
It's ridiculous and incomprehensible with the left and the Democrats just putting out, just like you just read with ChatGPT. By the way, there's some truths in there and it's all mixed in, right, to confuse people as to what the immigration process is like. But let's break it down. First of all, they call him a resident. Yes, technically he's a resident because he was living in Maryland, but he's an unlawful resident. They didn't put that part in there. Unlawful. Why? Because he doesn't have any legal status to be in the United States. He's completely illegal, undocumented. That's one. You could almost right then and there forget everything, but he's unlawfully present in the United States. Okay. So he goes through these court processes, the due process that, the left have been saying, oh, let's give these people the due process. Well, he got his due process a bunch of times.
So how does he get due process if he's here illegally? That's only for American citizens.
Right. So no. Well, there is a process. It might not be the same due process of a U.S. citizen, but believe it or not, illegals do get a due process because it depends where you came in, how you came in, what country are you from. All those things matter.
If they're seeking asylum, right?
Seeking asylum and whatever reasons. And we're going to get into that because that's what the left is hanging themselves on with this. So he actually gets to go before an immigration judge the very first time. The first time the immigration judge rules you are to be deported. Boom. That's it. He doesn't leave. So now he's really unlawfully present here. He's defied the order, and obviously he's still fighting it. He gets a second date. The second immigration judge, after reviewing the case and having the hearing, orders him deported again. That's twice.
Yeah, that's twice.
He doesn't leave again. So he still continues
breaking the law twice.
Breaking the law twice. So then he obviously is continue to fighting. He probably has an attorney representing him and all that. The third time, the immigration judge rules in his favor and says, "Okay, I'm going to order a stay." Kind of would call it it's not a deportation order because of the credible fear that you have brought to this court, saying that you have credible fear that if you are returned to El Salvador, you have credible fear of the rival gang members. The judge says you could stay for now, pending that credible fear.
But he went against two other judges' orders. I don't understand how it works. How do you just keep going to different judges? They give you different orders?
And that's one thing I don't know if it's the same judge or different judges. That's a very good question. I don't know. I know that it's a third ruling. And so then, okay, the guy thinks, okay, I'm okay. I'm going to continue the process. By the way, my understanding is he's married to a U.S. citizen. There's another thing. It means nothing. You don't know how many people I arrested that were illegally present in this country that were married to a U.S. citizen. Good. Why didn't the spouse petition for him? Why didn't they send the paperwork and start the process? Because even if you're married, and I want to make this clear, if you're an illegal person, unlawful present in the United States, you marry a U.S. citizen, it doesn't mean automatically I'm going to become a U.S. citizen too. Most of the time, you start the process, you get your resident card, all that good stuff, and all it's in good standing. Not in this case, apparently. Even if she did petition, I haven't heard that, in fact, she ever petitioned for him, meaning that they started that process. So they haven't even addressed that, really. So then ICE goes and picks him up and removes him. And they said, oh, it was an erroneous removal. Let me tell you why. It was a procedural. It had nothing to do that he was undocumented. And we haven't even talked about who this guy is. I want to leave that later right now. But they said, oh, they forgot to fill out this paperwork. Here's the difference. The paperwork, and you and I have talked about this before, the paperwork, the bureaucracy, the cumbersome process of the immigration system has become really saturated with all these documentation, making it very hard for the authorities to get rid of people, making it easier for people that are here undocumented to stay. This started back in the days. They have made the process very difficult. So there was an issue with the paper. Some document was missing. To me, that document is null and void. It doesn't matter. Why? Because on top of it, the guy is an MS-13 gang member. Proven. There is no doubt. Stop saying that he's not. You cannot, I'm going to tell you something as a retired agent. You cannot take, first of all, the word of the spouse. Oh, my husband's not a gang member. Doesn't matter what she says. What he says, oh, I'm not a gang member. Doesn't matter what he says either, because it has already been proven by the Department of Justice, by the Department of Homeland Security, and El Salvador that, in fact, this guy is a member of MS-13. We go back. He was caught one time in smuggling 7 illegals in his car. I think it was Indiana. I forget the state. Not trafficking. Everybody's saying, oh, human trafficking. No, it's human smuggling. He was smuggling illegals. Well, that's one of the indicators, and I'm going to show the indicators of why this guy is an MS-13. I used to be a gang intel guy. He is involved in criminal activity that MS-13 is involved in. Human smuggling and human trafficking. That's the exploitation of women. They're known for bringing women and exploiting them, prostituting them, and such. He was smuggling. Maybe the illegals that he was smuggling were going to be exploited. We don't know. That's one thing. The other indicator are the tattoos on his body. You don't know how many times, I have interviewed spouses and mothers, and I am telling them, your son or your spouse is a gang member. No, not my little boy, not my boy, not my husband. He's such a loving father. He's such a worker. That's what they know, because that's what they see, right? And I'm not there asking them. I'm there telling them that your loved one is a member of this gang and a member of 𝗵𝗲𝗍, whatever, right? Whoever we're talking about. Why? Because he happens to have 915 tattooed on his neck. That's another indicator. In this case, this guy has, I understand, the tattoo on his hand, might have other.
And just for people so they know, it's not like people say, well, tattoos mean nothing. I mean, there's people who love the Dallas Cowboys and they get a Dallas Cowboy, insignia or logo on their arm or their shoulder, or a Cleveland Brown or whatever, or the Raiders.
That's actually a very good point. What does that tell you?
But it's not the same with gangs. With gangs, you can't be falsely wearing their tattoos. You got to, if you're part of a gang, you have to wear it on your skin.
It's a brand. You are telling not only them, but you're telling the rest of the world and the rival gangs that you belong to this gang. I mean, it's not that complicated, but that's the way it is. If somebody puts a tattoo of the star of the Dallas Cowboys, what it indicates to me is that you're a big Dallas Cowboy fan. That's
and they don't play for the Dallas Cowboys.
And they don't play there, and you're a big fan, and you put a sticker on your truck. Is very different. Here, this guy is tattooed and has labeled himself as a member of this organization. On top of that, what does that mean? He is also a terrorist. Get it, people? Please get it. The left and the Democrats, get it through your head. He is a terrorist. I'm not saying he's a terrorist. I didn't make that up. It was classified by the State Department along with President Trump when we declared cartels and other groups foreign terrorist organizations. Part of that list was MS-13.
So okay, so then he's a terrorist organization. He's part of a terrorist organization. That would mean to me it means no due process, right?
Right.
And any judge who's trying to stall this process is aiding and abetting terrorists.
That's exactly
clear.
Why
aren't they arrested? I don't understand why we're playing with these people, bro. Why are we even playing with him? Why isn't he in handcuffs and taken away?
This is the left protecting terrorists, They picked the wrong guy to stand up on it and stand on the hill. They picked the wrong guy to make their argument. There's many others that I think they could have made their arguments about a removal. They picked the wrong guy. This guy apparently also beat up his wife at one point. Again, let me tell you my experience.
Restraining order she has on him.
Right. She filed restraining orders on him because he used to beat her up. They asked her this on TV, and she refused to answer because, again, I dealt with these individuals that would, family violence, and you go arrest in this case, the husband, and immediately as you're arresting them, the wife jumps on you and says, "No, don't take him. I love him. You have a big old black eye, a shiner. He just kicked the living crap out of you. And now you don't want us to take him to jail." It's very, very common. You could ask any police officer, any agent that had dealt with this. That is a cycle of violence, a horrible. That's why they don't leave and they continued under this abuse cycle. That's what I think is happening here. She did file the restraining orders. He did do that to her. That's even another opportunity or qualifier to get removed from the country. Another thing. Well, what authority does the U.S. government have to remove this guy? They have a lot of authorities. One, terrorist. You're a terrorist, that's it. There's no due process. We pick you up, that's gone. That's number one. Number two, it's Title 8 of the Immigration and Nationality Act. You are here unlawfully present in the United States. We have a law, Title 8 under immigration law. I didn't invent it. It was legislatively passed many, many years ago. And the thing is, and now it's being enforced. That's the second one that you can remove them. I don't know why they keep on fighting for this guy. You heard Bukele say there's no way, because now they want him released from the prison in El Salvador. You saw them go out there and visit him, the senators.
And they got turned away.
It's crazy, representing using the resources of the taxpayer, the senator, to go visit a terrorist gang member to see if he can get him out of prison to do what? This is the part that I understand. If you heard Stephen Miller, he did a great job in clarifying. What do you think that? What are you expecting him to El Salvador to release him? You know what Bukele said? I'm not going to release a terrorist.
Right, but didn't he turn the senators away?
Yes, but he got in. So the senator was in Salvador. They wouldn't let him in. And then eventually they did, and they had that little summit to the meeting with the margarita thing and all that.
This is the propaganda they need. The Democrats need to fuel the fire further and make this 2.0.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
And then they start funding. They use this guy as a poster boy. So this is what I'm putting together here. They use Kilmer as the poster boy for the new La Raza protests that they're going to be funding. Right? That's what they did.
Yes.
And then they get AOC and they get Bernie Sanders behind this movement, and they use this to kickstart the blaze that turns into a wildfire
for election purposes, because they know they lost very, very bad in November, And I'm telling you, if the Democrats continue on this path, because they're doubling, tripling down on this guy, that the American people, we're not stupid, and we've opened our eyes and we recognize what they stand for. They stand for, you saw that picture with President Trump with the angel mom and this guy with the terrorist. We're not the same. Yes, we're not. You need to be focused on the people that are victims of crime here. And so the difference here is that if they're going to continue to do that, I said this in the news this week, they're not going to be winning many more elections. They're not.
Well, I don't understand, if they're a terrorist organization, how's anyone coming to their aid, and why aren't we dropping the hammer? Hold on, Victor. It seems to me like we have the right to arrest these judges and these people who are aiding and abetting these terrorists. What's the point of naming? What's the point of labeling them a terrorist organization if you don't follow through? See what I'm getting at here? Unless Trump is saying, you know what, let's leave them out like chum in the water, because he knows that it's like it's proving his point. Maybe this is the hill they'll die on. What's your thought? What's the strat? There has to be strategy here, because I think Trump has every right to go after these lawyers and these people that are defending Kilmer and arrest them for aiding and abetting terrorists. Why isn't he doing that?
And I think that President Trump initially didn't think that he was going to get this kind of pushback, because I thought he would think, like any normal, prudent person thinks, hey, well, you're removing bad people from the country. That's what we want. But it actually is working more in favor of President Trump, because he's proving to the rest of the world. In fact, this is why we won the election, because these people, the left, are not engaging with everyday Americans that are sick and tired of crime. All crime, illegal crime, but committed by people that are undocumented, and crime from the United States citizens.
It's like they're disconnected from logic.
Yeah, this is common sense. This is logic. This guy's never, ever going to come back and be free in the United States if they think that that's what it is. I wanted, before I forgot, the credible fear that he said, because, I can't go back to El Salvador because of the rival gang members. Well, I thought you weren't a gang member. He says he's not an MS-13 gang member. So why would you be afraid of any rival gangs? So he himself is contradicting himself. If I can't go to a certain country because of the status in a group, then if he really was a gang member, he would know that that's the process. We know.
And not only that,
this is another thing. He's going to a prison. He wasn't getting released to the streets in El Salvador. Now, El Salvador is a sovereign nation. They can do whatever they want with their laws and their citizen. It's not up to us anymore. I've said this many times. The burden is no longer going to be placed on the United States for us to determine all of this. It's your country. It's your citizen. You deal with them. And even Bukele said, if we release him here, he would be released in El Salvador. I'm not going to take him back to the United States and smuggle a terrorist into the U.S.
Why doesn't his wife and kids go to El Salvador if they really love him and stay there? Because she's saying, well, his kids are crying, they're holding his clothes, and they're crying every day. She's raised over $200,000 on GoFundMe. Okay, so I see cancer patients that can't raise their goal $5,000. Okay, and this lady's is raising money for her husband, $200,000. That's enough money to go to El Salvador and, I don't know, get a home there, be next to the prison, have visits with him. The kids want to see him so badly. Do you get what I'm saying? And where's the Me Too movement in all this? Because the hypocrisy here blows my mind. I mean, he's had domestic abuse on his wife, 2 restraining orders on him. Where's the Me Too movement on this?
Are we supposed to be protecting women and believing women, right? Now because it's attached to immigration, all the common sense goes out the window every time we put immigration. And I'll say it again. If you switched MS-13 to ISIS, and we said that, we deported an ISIS terrorist, will we be having this conversation? Would the left be defending an ISIS terrorist? Probably not, but there's no difference here. This is the part that they don't understand, because it's new to them, because it's a newly designated group as a terrorist, it means nothing. What it does mean is that he is a designated terrorist, just like Sinaloa Cartel, Cartel Jalisco New Generation, Gulf, and all the others, Familia Michoacana, and all the others that made that list, including Tren de Aragua, by the way, who are also terrorists. That's how we're supposed to refer to them. So when you encounter a terrorist, you have to immediately remove them from the country. One thing that they were arguing is like, if you were so in fear of rival gangs going to El Salvador, it makes no sense, because El Salvador is the safest Western Hemisphere country in the world, in the Western Hemisphere. It's the safest. It went from a level 4, so there's 4 levels under the State Department. Level 4 being a critical. Mexico is level 4. Afghanistan, Iraq, level 4.
Mexico's level 4, bro?
Oh, yeah, bro. Level 4.
I mean, I believe it with 𝗀𝗏𝗏, yeah.
So El Salvador, now they're level 1, which is the safest. The safest. There are no gang members on the street. So I don't know what this guy is talking about. Another thing, he's not in 𝗪𝗂𝗃. He is no longer at 𝗪𝗂𝗃, at the maximum security prison. He is at another facility, another detention facility. And I think El Salvador kind of did that for him because of all the stuff that's going on. All right, let's put him over here for a while.
Now he's a liability if something happens to him in prison.
Yeah, maybe because of the attention and all that. I don't know eventually where he'll end up. I tell you right now where he's not going to end up, and that's in the United States. Because if that guy, he was not going to set foot in this country ever again. If he's put on an airplane for whatever reason, judges, whoever, and they force the Biden administration, I mean the Trump administration, to bring him back, federal agents are going to be at the door of the airplane and hook him up.
Right, and it'll send a massive.
He's not going to go back to a facility in the United States. He's going to go to Guantanamo Bay or back to El Salvador.
Right, and that would send a strong signal to the rest of the world, like, hey, doesn't matter. We're not abiding by our own rules. Lawfare is winning. Lawfare is winning.
Law and order.
I heard he was picked. Was he picked up in a Home Depot parking lot? Is that where he was picked up?
He was a day laborer. That's what he was working. Day labor, again, working illegally. Oh, by the way, I'll take that back. He did have a work permit. So the Biden administration
given to him by Biden, correct?
Biden administration gave him a work permit. You and I talked about this. This is not the type of person that you would give a work permit to, because they were just handing out work permits. And they think that because the family and maybe the attorneys think, and I'll tell you right, I'm not an attorney. I'm going based off of my experience. A work permit, sometimes they think that they have this enormous status because you have a work permit. No. The work permit is given to a person that is applying legally and is going through the process, as in the U.S. Then the federal government says, you know what? So you won't be a public charge to the federal government. We're going to give you a work permit so you could go work and earn a living for yourself. So you won't have to get any resources from the government. The Biden administration did it backwards. We're going to give you a housing. We're going to give you food. We're going to give you money. We're going to give you put all this stuff, and we're going to give you a work permit. The opposite. They did it backwards. In other words, you can't be handing out those permits just because it's illegal. You heard that all the people, and I said this on your show, everyone that came under the CBP-1 app no longer have a status. I knew that because CBP-1 app was illegal. It was invented, a policy that was invented by the Biden administration. And now you have over 1 million people that came under the CBP-1 app, which was given to them erroneously, illegally. Now, Trump has stripped them of that because they didn't do it the right way. So now they have to self-deport, or ICE is going to go pick them up. The one in question right now that they're trying to do is the ones that came in under the parole, and the courts are fighting that out right now.
All right, so I know you got a Newsmax hit pretty soon, so I'm going to be respectful of your time. But what if, and a lot of people are asking this question. I have 2 more questions for you, man. Yeah. The Supreme Court, and this was from John Carmen. I'm going to be talking to him later today, the United States Secret Service under Carter and I think Ford. And he worked border, but he worked the border as well. So he's very knowledgeable on this stuff. But he said the Supreme Court is fouling up right now. as in any member of Congress who tries to get an MS-13 killer back into the USA is committing treason. He said 18 USC 2381. We can talk on this as well. I'm going to be talking to him about this as well. But is that not the truth?
That's definitely the truth. This morning, just this morning, before we came on, the Supreme Court put a block or a hold on deportations under the Act, the 1798.
Really?
Act.
Okay, that one.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. So that just
how are they not being arrested and escorted out of Congress?
So here's the thing: the Supreme Court just put, because the ACLU filed a very late emergency motion, and the Supreme Court said, okay, we're gonna tell the Trump administration that right now he cannot deport anyone under that act, the 1798 Act. Here's my response to that: it's okay. We have Title VIII. We have a lot of other reasons and laws that we can deport people from this country. It doesn't have to be under the act. What the act does is that you can remove people without all that mumbo jumbo paperwork that I talked about. This system that makes it almost impossible. Why? Because they're not just picking anybody under the act. They're picking Tren de Aragua members. They're picking MS-13 members, terrorists under this act, under the invasion that I think you and I believe it really was, and it is an invasion of millions of people. And now, for right now, as you and I speak, there's a hold on that. So,
so they're not going to be doing. They can't just. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say there's a facility near El Paso or down somewhere in Texas where there's a bunch of them ready to go that were going to be deported under this act that now are being held, and they're not going to go.
But they're not being released.
They're not being released, or at least being held in the detention.
They're still continuing. They can still go do raids and get people, right?
Yeah, that's all. That's all. This is the only on the deportation under the act, which to me, how about you deport them under the law that they're terrorists, under the new designation that they're terrorists? If you would find, again, a Taliban member, an ISIS member in this country, you would be deporting. I don't think anybody would have any problem with that. But because we're talking about MS-13, I don't know how. I don't know why people there. I'm telling you right now, there's no difference. A terrorist is a terrorist. Death is death, whether by a bomb, whether by pills, whether by bullets, whether by stabbing. It doesn't matter. Death is death, and crime is crime. And these people have proven themselves to put themselves. They wouldn't be designated. We didn't designate that. The government didn't designate. Oh, just out of the blue. These guys, you have to understand what MS-13 in their own constitution, who they are. Their weapon of choice is a machete. That's how they kill people. They dismember people, their own people, by the way, their own immigrant community. They also terrorize along with U.S. citizens. So I don't know why we want these kind of bad guys, why they're fighting for these bad guys to stay in the United States. It makes absolutely no sense. And it's garnered too much attention at this point, because now that's why we're having this, to set the record straight, because now you have ChatGPT and you have all this information going in there, and
I guarantee you this would be slowed down in the algorithms. You know what I mean? Throttled back, because it's when I put it in ChatGPT, I couldn't believe what I was looking at.
I know, I read it. You sent it to me and I was reading it, and I'm like, there were some truths in there, like they sprinkle a little truths in there, which even makes it more confusing for people to read, because they think, well, this is partly true, but the overall, the totality of the segment you sent me of ChatGPT is wrong, and they're telling people the wrong information.
Well, here's what they're getting ready to do, in my opinion, and I think you can agree with me. They're going to use this guy as the paper boy to kickstart all the La Raza protests, riots, really pick up steam against Trump, commit more lawfare. This is just the beginning. People need to know this is just the beginning. I have one last question for you, though, Victor. And this is where the liberals are like, well, I don't, this is where their argument comes in. What if someone has been living in the United States illegally, all right, for 20 years and has family here, all right? They're a good citizen. They've never done anything wrong. They're still here illegally. They have they speak English. Their children speak English. They've had a family here. They're still going back, right? I mean, because, sorry, you still broke the law to get here, but who goes back? Just the person, or does the family?
Just a person, but if the family wants to accompany them, that's fine. Here's the big difference, is that they're not going to be sent to El Salvador. They're not going to be sent to in Guantanamo Bay. They're going to be sent back to their country. They're going to be, this is why the Department of Homeland Security has given, especially that category that you just described, an opportunity to live on their own. Gather your belongings, gather your businesses and all your everything, and go and remove yourself, and you're registering with DHS. And I think that this is the reason why they're doing it. If you do that, you have a good chance of coming back to the country legally, because you're telling the U.S. government, I'm sorry, I did come in illegally, and I've been here 20 years. I raised a family. I have a business, whatever. We understand that. But you have to prove to the rest of the world, including this individual, that things need to be done right, because we are a sovereign country. We do have a constitution, and you will abide by it. And so that person should take full advantage. I know it's an inconvenience, but heck, it's been an inconvenience to American taxpayers in paying in Texas billions of dollars to educate your undocumented children. Billions of dollars for you every time you go to the ER, and we have to pay for it. I'll give you an example. My parents in El Paso, we used to go back then, was Thomason, I think is now USMC, and we rarely went to the doctor. Like my dad would tell us, you can't afford to get sick. But the reason why I tell you this is because when my parents did need medical attention, my poor parents, man, a $10,000 bill, $150 a month, $150 for years, bro, for years. And I know you've seen this. I lived this. I grew up there. Illegals with broken bones and cancer and you name it, the whole spectrum, they pay zero. My parents would be paying for them. Eventually, when I grew up and lived in El Paso, I was paying for them and everybody else. And that's why the property taxes are through the roof, because we're paying for undocumented people.
But not anymore.
Not anymore. We're sick and tired of it, man. It's not about people, you're denying an undocumented person a chance for healthcare. Listen, this is not about a humanitarian thing. This is not about being compassionate. We're real people. We're compassionate. We understand that the people want to come to this country and do better. We get that. All we're asking is that you do it the right way. You do it the right way. You pay the fines. You pay the everything. You ask with the government. You get vetted. That's the number one thing. You get vetted. You tell the U.S. government, just like I have and like you have in my taxes, they know exactly who I am, where I live, how much I make. They know everything about me. We want to know everything about you because you're a foreigner coming into our country. Look at all these others with the visas, the student visas, that they lied on their application saying that they were going to come here to study. We want that. But when you come over here and start protesting on behalf of Hamas, that's not going to go. Secretary Rubio said it very clearly. We're not going to tolerate that anymore. You lied on your visa, which that one is actually the easiest one to revoke. All these overstays, you and I talked about these overstay visa people that overstay their visa, they are completely undocumented as well. They need to leave, or else ICE is eventually going to come pick you up. That's going to be the next category of people down the road. There's millions of those. That's the biggest group, by the way. And it's sending a message, like you said, David. It's sending the message to the rest of the world. Enough is enough. We're a welcoming country. We want millions of people. We accept more than 1 million people a year here legally. By the way, they've been put in the back of the line. We want you to come to this country. We want you to provide your expertise, your skill, your work, whatever it is that you do in our country legally. We want you to be a member of the community. We want you to be a member of the church. We want you to incorporate in these neighborhoods and speak the language and live the American dream here, not just here. Because a lot of people, when you become a naturalized U.S. citizen, you swear to revoke your prior citizenship of that country. And now you're swearing that your allegiance is to the United States of America and you would fight for this country. That's the difference of a legal immigrant versus one that's illegal.
I've noticed, I told you this before, when I was flying from El Paso to San Antonio back to El Paso, 70 to 100 open seats, man. Never before, not in the last 2 decades have I seen that, Victor. And when you take the late flights, maybe you got some open seating, but not like middle of the day stuff on Sunday and on a Wednesday. And I thought, well, maybe it's because it's Wednesday, but no, on Sunday as well. I mean, probably right now people are traveling, the holidays are packed, but think about it. 30 million plus illegal immigrants are frozen. They can't move around. They'll get deported.
I saw it. I saw what you saw. I boarded so many planes from San Antonio, El Paso, McAllen, Tucson, Arizona, Phoenix that had 25. Well, before it was 25%, 30% of the airplane was full of illegals. Now they're empty. And I'm flying to El Paso, so I'll let you know this week. I mean, I plan on coming and seeing you to see what it looks like, because this is the change, right? TSA is no longer going to let them get on a plane without an ID. Real ID is just around the corner.
May 7th, is it?
May 7th, correct.
So wait, let's talk about that for a second. I know you got to split, but does that mean that can I use my driver's license or?
Yes.
So yes, wait, I have my driver's license. Get a new ID or anything?
No, the real ID, it'll have a little star in there in the corner. Texas ID, mine has a little star. Different states have it placed in a different spot. But that's your real ID is your driver's license. You're good to go with that.
But what about do illegals have that? I mean,
that's a great question. Here's the thing: to get a real ID, you have to now show different documents. That's what they're saying. Guess what the #1 document? Now, Texas is kind of the exception because Texas has already been asking this forever, and that is your birth certificate. Plain and simple. You have to bring in your birth certificate to the DMV to get a real ID. If you never brought a birth certificate, in Texas is the exception, because I'll tell you, when I lived in Colorado and I had a Colorado driver's license and I came back to Texas, first of all, they gave me back my old number. I had my old driver's license, the same one. They said, oh yeah, we'll just pick you up. But they didn't just give it to me. They said, oh yeah, give me 2 bills with your name on it. Give me your birth certificate, your marriage certificate. I was like, what the heck is going on? And I was okay with it because the state of Texas does verify. So I provided all the document and I got my real ID. New York doesn't do that. California doesn't do that. They've been issuing these driver's license without that documentation.
But now it's national, correct?
It's national. It's national. Wow. And so they're not going to be able to fly with that ID.
So let me ask
it's not on a real ID.
I think a question came in, folks. If you want to ask a question to Victor, he's only got about 5 minutes. Let's take a question. I saw one come in. Victor, has the number of illegals hit 40 million yet?
I always predicted about 30 to 35 total, forever. And, just in the last 4 years, we could argue 15 to 18 million. That's my assessment. My opinion is about 15 to 18 million. Officially recorded about a little over 10 million. And then you have about 2 million known gotaways. That's 12 million. And then who knows how many gotaways. So I think it's about 15 to 18 million. Plus all the other ones, they kept on saying that there was 11 million here. So let's go with the 11 million. 18 plus 11, you're close to 30. So I say around 30 to 35 illegals have been in the country for a long time. Are we going to get rid of them? If that's the next question, no. It's not going to happen in 4 years. They're going to do as many. Just remember, go back and look at the stats. How many 5.2 million, like 8 million. I mean, George Bush, millions they deported, and no one said anything. No judge ordered a stop of them. No one, I never remember ever talking about people complaining about those deportations. But because there's a guy in the White House named President Trump that they hate more than they love this country, they're stopping him. He's only at 100,000. We haven't even gotten that close to the number.
Just scratch the surface. But if you think about it, it's still like with the real ID and things like that are coming, they're not going to be able to afford the luxuries of America. They're going to be living in paranoia. They're not going to enjoy living in this country.
Not anymore.
They're not going to be able to get an apartment. They're not going to be able to get a house. They're not going to be able to get a driver's license. They can't do anything. So they'll just self-deport. I mean, I would. What are you going to do here? You only resort to crime. And if you get caught doing crime, you get deported.
The pressure is coming in from the states. What are they all going to go to the sanctuary states? Is Colorado going to take them all? Is Chicago going to take them all? They can't.
They're going to try that at first.
I think they're going to try to go to different states, but it's not going to go well for the states. I mean, in Denver, they already had $150 million in debt in their healthcare system because of the treatment of illegals. And then who do they pass on the cost to? The taxpayer, the U.S. citizen. So it really is. I'm glad you had me on today because we have to set the record straight. I'll tell you how it is. I told you that erroneous thing that yes, it was a document. Don't get held up so much on that. It was a document, and oh, I forgot to put that. Believe me, when I did so many, it's so much paperwork, man, and he has to go through supervisor. So they missed a document. A big deal. It doesn't. It's moot. It's a moot point at this point. The guy is a terrorist and should not be welcome back in the country.
Well, hey, when are you going to come to El Paso? Pretty soon?
This week, bro. I'm going to come see you, and we're going to go see Chingo, remember?
Oh, yeah. Let's go do – hey, also let's go to L&J's and get some Mexican food.
Oh, bro, I miss L&J's. We got to do it, man. So I'm going to call you. I'm going to fly in Tuesday, and I'll be there the rest of the week.
All right, let's go see some Chingo Bling and get some Mexican food. All right, Victor, thank you, brother. All right, folks, see you later. We're out.
Take care.